Hey Teaheads, this is Don from Mei Leaf. I'm about to get super chilled because I'm going to be sipping on 4 GABA Oolongs today. A Mei Leaf favorite, GABA Oolongs. We normally have 3 in stock: Amber, Amethyst, and Ruby. They are, as I said, crowd favorites. We've had them for upwards, probably over 10 years of stocking these GABA Oolongs. And now we've got a 4th edition to the range. It took us a while, 10 years, but hey, we're here now. Let's quickly talk about GABA Oolong. GABA Oolong is an oolong tea produced in Taiwan that during the processing of the tea, while the teas are withering, they are put into low oxygen environments, basically a vacuum. They're put into these big tanks and the oxygen is sucked out. And what happens is during that phase, while it's withering, if it's withering within that low oxygen environment, then it radically increases the natural GABA content of the leaves. GABA is found in all teas in varying amounts, but generally with oolong teas, they're around sort of 6 milligrams per 100 grams of tea leaf. With GABA Oolong, in order for it to be called GABA Oolong, it needs to have 25 times that amount, like 150 milligrams at least. And I think all of these have over 200 milligrams of GABA per 100 grams of tea. So radically increases GABA. GABA is gamma aminobutyric acid. It's a neurotransmitter that is produced naturally, endogenously by the body. And it's a neurotransmitter which modulates and regulates the excitability of your nervous system. Specifically, it calms you down. Everything becomes calmer with GABA. GABA is a neurotransmitter that helps to put a brake on your nervous system to reduce excitability, keep you calm. And it has many different functions. And if you want to look at the health benefits of GABA, then go check out our website, which we'll talk about that. We can't say too much, but of course we can say what GABA has been researched for, so you can look into that. There's also the discussion about supplementation of GABA and whether or not it crosses the blood-brain barrier. That's another area of controversy, but there are many studies out there which show that GABA has an effect on your nervous system, either by crossing the blood-brain barrier, which is still an area of controversy, or by latching onto your enteric nervous system, so outside of the brain. Lots to talk about in terms of GABA. We also helped with a feasibility study around GABA and autism, a small feasibility study where GABA tea, our GABA tea, was given to children who have autism or are autistic. I don't know the politically correct way of saying it, so apologies if I am messing that up. But they found encouraging results in this small feasibility study. Just a small feasibility study, but still the results were encouraging, and the recommendation was that further studies needed to be done. So GABA is a very well-known neurotransmitter. It is very well known for calming and for putting, as I said, slowing down the excitability of your nervous system. And it has a whole host of other benefits. And we have plenty of clients who drink these teas. So we've got lots of anecdotal evidence that it has an effect. But of course, you can dive into the literature yourself. What I'm focused on today, as always, with Mei Leaf tea is taste. And we have 3 of our classics here and a new one here. So this is Amber GABA. This is made with the Chin Shin variety. This is Amethyst GABA. This is made with the Fu Shou variety. This is Ruby GABA, made with the Ruby variety or cultivar. And this is Tiger Eye GABA, which is made with the Jin Xuan variety. Jin Xuan is the same tea variety that is used to make the creamier, milkier oolongs, not the fake scented milk oolongs, but the real milk oolongs like our Alishan cream or our Lily cream whip. So they generally have more of a creamy note about them. And I wanted to complete the set of famous cultivars covered. So I'm super happy to have the Jin Xuan variety here. And I'm going to taste through all of them and give you just my initial flavor notes. I'm not going to do a thorough tasting like I would normally with single teas, because then we'll be here for 2 hours. We're going to start with Amber GABA. Let me just heat the water up here. Amber GABA is by far one of our most successful teas, biggest selling teas. It is a crowd favorite. It has a very specific taste. There are many Amber GABA lovers out there. It comes, as I said, from the Chin Shin variety. The Chin Shin variety is a very classic cultivar which is used throughout Taiwan to produce generally the more classic high mountain oolong teas. Very renowned cultivar, tends to have a little bit of bite, tends to have a little bit of, well, a good balance between a little bit creamy, a little bit honeyed, but a little bit of bite and a freshness as well about it. And I think that Amber GABA is successful because it's a sort of all-round beautiful tea, and because it goes through a roast as well, it just gives a warmth to the tea. But we will give it a quick tasting. As I said, I'm not going to go through complete flavor notes because we'll be here forever. Check it out online. Any of these GABAs you can check out online and see the tasting notes. It's such a classic. I know this tea so well that almost when I sample it, I can just smell it and know whether or not it's okay to go. Not that I do that, I of course taste it. Biscuits, warm biscuity note, fruity note, honeyed notes, stone fruits, honeys, baked biscuits, foresty vibes as well, a little bit of muscatel. So you get a bit of that honeyed but fruity citrus note coming through. Such an amazing balanced tea, and clearly a crowd favorite for good reason. Smell of the wet leaf, picking up more of those muscatel notes, the bug bitten notes. Even though this is not technically a bug bitten tea, it's definitely there. So honeys and muscat grapes. There's forest honey note running through it, and a slightly dansong style vinyl fruitiness. So I always associate dansong teas, which is a oolong from South China, to have that sort of fruits to the point where it almost becomes so aromatic that it starts to smell like varnish or vinyl. And that has that in there as well. But there's so much going on. Right, let's give it a rinse. Give it a brew. Feel free to explore the range online. But I don't want to preach to the converted. I know a lot of people out there already have lots of this tea in their stash. So we're gonna just give it a quick tasting. I would say it's the most accessible of our GABA teas, and I mean that. I mean, it's always difficult to assess what accessible means because everyone's taste is different. But in general, I would think that most people would agree it's the least wacky out of all of the GABAs that we have. Amethyst and Ruby are a little bit more out there, and some people really are drawn to them, and other people are like, "Ooh, no, it's a bit too much for me," which is always the great thing about teas with lots of character. Amber GABA, the warmth and the juiciness combined, the apricots and sort of apricots soaked in honey, and the that little nectarine note in there, blended with those baked biscuits, poached pears, and forest, just lots of forest honey. It's sweet in the finish. It's like a warm hug. This is just the most comforting, settling tea, irrespective of the fact that it's got a lot of GABA, which has its effects, but just the taste of it is so warm, comforting, sweet, but still with enough fruitiness to give it some life and some vivacity to it. Okay, such a classic, could drink it all day. But we are moving on to probably the most wacky of all of them, the Fusho variety, Buddha's Hand. This is our Amethyst GABA. This one takes people by surprise when they try it for the first time, even when they smell it, because it has a lot of non-food notes in the nose. Wow. Tarmac, is always the note that I come up with. You know, if you're driving past, you know, some freshly laid tarmac, they're doing the roadworks, that's there. Coffee, tarmac, a lot of coffee in this batch. So roasted, deep, nutty, fruity, but all in that really roasted down quality. A little bit of licorice, a little bit of vinyl, a lot of vinyl, some Chinese herbal note as well. So it's got that apothecary, it's got that deep, dank, dense, but the highlight are those tarmac and coffee notes, which I think just set it apart as a completely unique tea that you either love or hate. And remember, love and hate are two sides of the same coin. So if you really find yourself repelled by it, then give it another go. You might find that it becomes a love affair. Wow, so strong, so pungent. Oh, look how dark those leaves are as well. Amazing. So jet black. You can see it's a very different looking tea. All right, let's give it a brew. That black licorice and tarmac and coffee comes through, but there's when you rinsed it, gets a bit brighter, but there's a funk to it. There's like a sort of animal funk to it, which I absolutely love. It's not in the sort of, you know, overly elephant house, but there's a little farmyard in there, which, you know, for those of you who know me, I'm always attracted to those funkier teas. It's one of those teas that you pull it out and put it under the nose of guests or yourself, and you'll be like, it will get a reaction. But at its heart, and this is the key when you brew it, it is gentle and warm and giving, and just such a beautiful tea to taste. The water was not quite hot enough, 92 degrees, so I'm brewing it a bit longer than I normally would. But you should still see a difference in the color. Yeah, not enough. Let me brew it again. You can see a difference in the color. It's a bit darker than the amber, but I noticed when I picked up the Gaiwan that didn't feel hot enough, so I'm going to brew again. But we'll taste this lighter brew. Cheers, everybody. That coffee note is coming through, coffee, tarmac. The spices pop out as well. I said Chinese herbal note, but then I'm getting like black cardamom, licorice. Black cardamom is a very particular taste and smell. A little bit more woodsy, a little bit more pungent, but such a sweet finish. Not honeyed so much, more like licorice and syrupy. And that roasty, toasty note that lingers in the vaporous finish is such a delight as well. Picking up a lot of the cardamom on the nose. Clove, cardamom, sweet spices. There you go. That's a lot darker, so you can see. But so smooth and so juicy and so giving and so forgiving. And so you could brew this really like hard, and it's gonna give you the most amazing tea. And you can see the difference in color there, I hope, between these two teas. Quite remarkable difference in color between the Fusho heavily roasted and the Qinshin. Delight. Okay. Moving on to Ruby. Ruby from the Ruby variety. If you've had Ruby Black, you know that this variety has its own set of very clear aromatics. We're talking eucalyptus, we're talking menthol. Those are the classic notes that I talk about when I think about Ruby. But put in a GABA tea, it's different. It has a very different quality to it, although those more liniment notes are definitely in effect, but it is different. They are there, so I'm going to say eucalyptus and menthol, but it's got a more baked in like fruit and spice loaf. It's got a more baked quality, like baked. It's got a piney quality. So I'm seeing pine wood fires, but without the smoke, just sort of the smell of like what I would imagine a pine charcoal to be. I think in my tasting notes previously, we talked about coconut, burnt coconut note. It's got like this very pyrazine, fiery quality to it, but with all of those really lovely mentholated notes as well. Quick rinse. Why did I drink the rinse? See, I'm losing it. Oh, now you smell this intense ruby character. There is pine, there is eucalyptus, camphor. It's like a liniment muscle rub, but then you combining that with this foresty quality to it. Deep roasted, again, a little bit of coffee is in there, a very fruity coffee, but the pine resins and the this, I remember saying, I think burnt coconut, it's there. It's like coconut, but then toasted, like a really, really dark toasted coconut. Oh, it's such an intoxicating smell. So different from the rest. Wow, amazing. It's been a while since I've had ruby. Must be like at least half a year. Well, no, I would have tasted the sampler. So yeah, probably about half a year ago, possibly a little bit less. But you know, it's one of the difficulties with me is I very rarely get to taste my own teas. When I've selected teas, we bring them in stock. I go through the initial sort of round of doing the videos, tasting it, and then putting it out. And then I'm always moving on to sampling new things. So it's always lovely to revisit these classic teas and remind yourself of why you selected them in the first place. But wow, the difference between all of them is remarkable. Let me know your favorite GABA. A lot of you have tried them all, I'm sure, in the last decade. So let me know your favorite. You can see it's sort of a midway house between the darker amethyst and the slightly lighter amber. Oh, I can't get enough of these smells. So different. Oh, I want to talk tasting this, but I can't. I've got a, what is that? It's licorice and cardamom, but with a fruit. I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get it, and I'm not going to try. That ruby quality's there. So very bright, very lively on the tongue with those mentholated eucalyptus notes. A more oily tea, as in like it feels like it's got more of those essential oil sort of notes to them. Pine, eucalyptus, menthol. It's very vaporous. Got a little more astringency, a bit more of a sort of a Sameca variety, because the ruby is a descendant from a Sameca variety. So it's got a little bit more of that pull and push and juiciness. It's more physical in the mouth. Less soft compared to the other ones. Definitely got more bite to it. And what's not to love about a bit of bite in it? Roasted coffee notes. I've given you the flavor notes. It's the same. Touch more fruit coming through. Roasted apricots, something like that. Okay. I'm going to get more water and I'll come back and we will do a proper tasting, or a little bit more detailed tasting, of Tiger Eye GABA. All right, while the water's heating up, let me quickly scope this tea. Season, this is from 2024, May 2024. Cultivar, this is from the Jin Shren variety. Also well known for having creamy notes, and is the type of tea that we use for Alishan cream and for Lily cream whip. if you want to know about milk oolongs, and that's an area that interests you because you've smelt lots of very milky oolongs, I'll stick a link in the description below to help you to steer you away from the artificially scented stuff. So this is Cultivar Jinshuan. This is from Alishan. So this is another Alishan tea, Chiayi area of Taiwan. The picking on this is going to be, again, the classic oolong picking. So it's slightly larger leaves. It's going to go through a long outdoor withering, an indoor withering with this low oxygen or vacuum withering phase. It's going to go through a heating phase, a rolling phase, a drying phase, a ball rolling phase, lots of phases. There's lots going on in terms of the processing of this tea. Elevations around 1,300 meters. As I said, I've been wanting to get a fourth GABA in for a little bit. I mean, I haven't been like searching manically for it because I know that, you know, we've got these three and they're classics, and I have been actually sent batches from the same producer of this tea before, but I never selected them. I liked them, but I never felt there was enough of that Jinshuan character. This batch is different. So I don't know if this is going to be, you know, a common feature in our catalog or if it's going to be a one-off. We shall see. Let's give it a smell. Oh, immediately. It's so different again. Butter, melted butter, apricot jam, Tweel biscuits. It's still got the honeyed notes of the amber GABA. It's still got that, you know, honey note, but it's got more of the butteriness. I'm getting some tinned peaches. I'm getting malt loaf. I'm getting a touch of like a little bit of like a 7-Up lemonade quality in there as well. But the predominance is melted butter and apricot jam. If you have ever had Shifu's pudding, which is a classic Tie Guanyin from just over the water in Fujian province, then it's worth me saying that there are some similarities in the nose. And I know a lot of people will be racing to buy on that statement alone because Shifu's pudding is a classic. Right, let's smell these wet leaves. Oh my gosh. So fruity and creamy. So the tinned peaches are there again, peach nectar. It's just like got that very thick peachy note to it. It has so much melted butter. Again, those sort of Tweel biscuits. Interestingly, I pick up a little bit of a sort of a milk chocolate covered raisins, or maybe, yeah, milk chocolate, but very light milk chocolate, not dark at all. I was going to say white chocolate, but it is more milk chocolate raisins. But so much apricot jam, butters and creams, tinned peaches and cream, It's such a, you know, you just want to like live in that go on. Right, let's brew it up. Whoops. And we shall see how it differs. Now, from my recollection, if you were going to say which one is it closest to, it's closest to amber GABA, but it is different. So if you love amber GABA, then I think it's worth you adding this to your collection. It's going to be a creamier version of amber GABA from my recollection of tasting it when I selected it. Cheers, everybody. So different. Let me just taste amber GABA. Forget what I just said. It's just a different tea. Was that? No, that was ruby. That was weird. Okay, let me just taste it again. Okay, a little bit more similar. I'll talk about this and I'll talk about the differences. Right, so creamed coconut, peach taffy candy, that lemonade 7-Up note is coming through as well. Some woods, but the woods are very light, like balsa wood, like super light woodiness to it, to give it that balance. Honeys are there, just like the amber, but instead of like a forest honey, think more like a light flowery honey, or like a honey lozenge, like if you're sucking one of those boiled sweets that has honey inside. It's got that more, simple's the wrong word, but you know what I mean, like that more gentle quality to it, but it comes with so much creaminess. Yeah, melted butter, biscuits, not too roasted. This is the least roasted out of all of the teas. And I think that that is to the advantage because it shows off the creaminess of the tea. Interestingly, it's still got a touch of that muscatel from the amber, but not as much. And it's interestingly got a little bit of that eucalyptusy note of the ruby, although maybe I'm just like, because I've built up too many layers on my tongue. So check out the tasting notes. I might scratch that. But right now I'm getting a little tingle of eucalyptus as well. Probably the ruby still lingering, especially since it's an Assamica. So drinkable. Another hug of a tea. So that's why I put it closer to the ambers versus the ruby and the amethyst that are a bit more like woohoo, wild, crazy, punchy, out there in terms of flavors. This is like kind of a universal. I can't imagine anybody not loving this tea. And I think that this is the kind of tea that would be a great gift to get people into oolongs, Taiwanese oolongs, GABA oolongs, or tea in general, because it is so like Moorish and delicious. Who doesn't like tinned peaches, cream, melted butter, malt loaf, and all of those creamed coconut notes? And if they do, then I have nothing to say other than what do they like? Oh, I think this is going to be a crowd favorite. It's just so delicious. A touch of almond, so almond and peach, great combination. Touch of almondy syrup or something. Almond syrup is in there. Or yeah, almond butter maybe. That butteriness, the roundness, the creaminess, the lactones that are rich in Jinchuan variety are so present. It feels creamy. It feels like there's been milk added. So good. But that creams and peaches is the best way to describe it. Smell the empty cup. Scones, butter, apricot jam. Absolute delight. So here are your 4 now GABAs, all very, very different. The amber has got more of that foresty note to it and is a little bit more muscatel and a bit more depth. This is more about those very confectionery notes of the butters and the jams. Then you've got the wild and crazy tarmacy and dark coffee and spiced up note of the amethyst. And you've got that liniment push-pull of the Assamica ruby variety with forest and coffee and pine and resins and all of the more resinous sort of plant oil notes. All 4 of them are unique in their own right and deserve a tasting. I hope that you explore the GABA range. I'm going to keep drinking and let myself drift off into GABA world. But there you go. Tiger Eye, our latest edition. I hope that GABA aficionados check it out. And as I said, if you're new to the world of GABA, then give them a try. That's it, Teaheads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you're in the world by browsing mayleaf.com and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mei Leaf. Thank you for being part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the chilled stuff and spread the word because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.